In front of you is my week 8 6-speed internal bicycle, which I bought a week ago, and I thought I'd give you an overview of my experience. This video will be divided into 4 parts. A, introduction. B, what's good about it. C, what's bad about it. And D, some upgrades. So starting with the introduction. I bought this bicycle on a fire sale for 1,700 yuan, and the normal starting price if you had to buy this from Taobao or Pinduoduo online in China would be 2,600 to 3,000 yuan. This is a Brompton clone. It's sold under many names such as Week 8, Light Pro, Royale, Cranston, etc. This is a base model, so it comes with no frills, and it weighs approximately 13 to 13.5 kilograms. It has 3-speed internal gear hub and a 2-speed external. It's 52 teeth, where my 9-speed external had 48. And in terms of the dimensions, it's about 151 centimeters unfolded, and folded it's about 65 by 55 by 30 centimeters. So the frame is almost identical to the Light Pro. The only difference I found is with the rear wheel. It connected to a fishtail connection. So who is this bike for? First of all, it's for people who can't afford a Brompton. Secondly, I bought this for my wife. My wife is a cyclist who only uses maybe about 3 gears. So if you're planning to do some very basic riding around the city and you really only use 3 gears, this is for you. If you want to have more control and you like to cycle through various gears, I think you'd find this a bit limiting. Moving on to the good. Price, I think 1,700 is extremely good value for money. The next good thing I found, I was very happy with the brakes. I find the rear and the front brakes to be very responsive, and they bite very well. Next, seat post. I'm 183 centimeters tall, and I found the seat post to just be enough. So if you are above 183 centimeters tall, I would suggest buying a taller seat post. What I like also about the seat post is at the back of the seat post you have a measuring guide, so that makes it easy for you to remember the correct height. Next, with the internal hub, I found that the highest. Next, in terms of the handlebar grips, I found them fairly soft. Going on to the gear hub, although I said that it had a very high gear, that it allows you to go to fast speed, at a very low gear in the first gear, I find it's too high. So when you're going at a very low speed and you want a low speed first gear, I find this is pretty bad. Again, I think I need to have it sent to a shop and have it adjusted, but the low gear is too high and the high gear is pretty high and good. Furthermore, there's a slight rub-in when the rear tire turns between the hub and the frame. I hear a slight rub-in. Next, the rear derailleur. When it came out of the box, there are 2 external gears, and it would not shift from the first to the second external gear. So I had to modify the transmission cable and adjust the derailleur screws for that to properly work. So one thing I think everyone should expect out of the box, you need to take it straight to a shop and get it a good service, because it's not going to work out. My 9-speed external and my 6-speed internal bicycles both required adjusting. Moving on. The pedals. They're big, they're chunky, and there's a lot of friction when they turn around. This maybe won't be a problem for cyclists who don't care about that or inexperienced, but if you're a cyclist and you're going to use a bicycle a lot, this needs to change. As for the saddle, unlike my Light Pro saddle, this is too hard. It's too narrow. It's not comfortable. And if you're a woman and you require something wider, you've got to change this. Definitely. Finally, with the gear shifters, there are 2 gear shifters. This is for the external gears, and the one on the right is for the internal gears. How to look at it is that this is basically a plus and minus. Plus more friction, minus less friction. And the right, this is basically your gears 1, 2, 3. So I found these gear shifters to be a bit iffy. I found it's not very definite. So when you click here, it's quite difficult to know exactly which gear you're in. With my Light Pro, it was a definite click, responsive. Where with this, it's not as responsive. Moving on to the upgrades. So with the rear rack, if it's too small, I would advise changing the rear rack to something longer, such as with my Light Pro. I changed it to a longer rear rack. Next, with the easy wheels, I would advise changing to a better quality easy wheel. Furthermore, another change I did was to buy a Light Pro wheel extender. So if you're going to fold your bicycle a lot and wheel it around, one of the problems is that this bicycle is unsteady. And this is where this comes in. So what happens is, if you're going to park it and you're afraid of it falling over, or if you're going to wheel it through an airport, what you can do is extend this. And so all you do is, once you're finished, you pop it back in. Next is a kickstand. I have a bad history with kickstands. As I've stated in my previous video, they don't work well. Surprisingly, this one did work well. A lot of people with Bromptons and Brompton clones complain that these kickstands are not stable. They're weak. They're barely usable. So with my Light Pro, this kickstand's terrible. Very unstable, and if you see, it kind of is at a 45-degree angle. So I bought a kickstand for this bicycle, a CMC kickstand, which I think is also sold under the name Light Pro, and I was amazed to see that it works well. So if the first thing you see, if you look from the top, it's not at 45 degrees, it's just slightly at an angle. Next upgrade I think is worthwhile. If the saddle is too hard, I've recently bought a saddle that I think is better for my wife. So it's softer, it's wider. So I will replace that. The next thing I'm also going to do is a light. So with this light, it's motion activated. So if you turn on the switch, it will blink when it's moving. Now there's 2 areas that you can attach it. On my other replacement rear rack. I placed it there. So either you can attach this under there. The problem is if you fold the rear wheel, the tar is going to scratch this. So where I would advise you to put this is actually to attach it under the saddle. So to do that, you'll just unscrew that screw and put a bolt at the top, a nut at the top, and with the forward nut over here, it's not going to be long enough. So what I did, I took out the old bolt, which was 50 millimeters long, and I will replace it with a 60 millimeter so that it allows the nut to screw in the top. Next, which is optional for handlebars, if you find that this is not comfortable, that it creates a bad posture with your arms going over it, what you can buy is a replacement that supports your wrist. But do note that this is longer. You can see the difference in length. It's longer, which means your gear shifter will have to shift over. So moving on to the handlebar. This bicycle came with a straight handlebar. I don't like that because I don't like a slouched over posture. If you do, fine, no problem. But if you want to have a more upright posture, I would advise changing it to a U handlebar. So I changed this to a 12 centimeter U handlebar. You can also change it to a taller 16 centimeter. But if you do change this, take note that you'll have to change the cables. So I changed this to a 12 centimeter, and I had to change the brake cables. The transmission cables were just long enough. Also, if you change to a U handlebar, you have less space. So if you want to have a bell, there's just enough space. But if you have a longer handlebar with the wrist support that I showed you, there's just enough space. But if you want to also add a mirror, there's probably not enough space for a normal grip plus bell plus mirror. And there's definitely not enough space if you want to have a longer grip with the wrist support. The next upgrade that I'm going to add is, take note, when you buy this, the cables rub the frame. And so the first thing you should have, you can do two things. You either buy a rubber frame protector, which you attach to the cables, or you can buy a frame protector sticker set. So you just take off a sticker and you put it on the frame where the cables rub. The other thing I bought is this shield frame protector, which you screw in there and then protects the frame from the cable. One additional thing you can do, I bought a bicycle lock, which I plan to attach to the seat post so I can store my lock. Finally, in terms of storage space, I bought two bags that I will use to attach to the front block. The first bag is a smallish bag that's maybe good for put it in a small bag with your wallet, or if you're going to go to a shop, buy bread, buy milk, just a small thing. And I bought this, it's called a Rhino Walk. And how it works is you unclip this and it'll fold up if you want to put more things inside. Now, if you need more shopping space, if you're going to go to a shop and buy 1 or 2 bags of groceries, I bought this bag, which if you slot it in the front, it provides quite a bit of shopping space, so you can fold it out and you can fit at least 2 bags of shopping in there. At first it takes a bit of while getting used to. It can handle about 10 kilograms, but it can make your bike unsteady. But this works in my experience pretty well. It's not something I would ride with all the time. I would only put it on when I go for shopping trips. So that is my review for the Week 8 6-speed internal Brompton clone. My advice is, as soon as you buy it, take it to a bicycle shop and get them to adjust the gears. Because my biggest issue with this bicycle is that the first gear is just too high. The 6th gear is very nice at going at high speeds, but the first gear makes it a pain to cycle at low speeds through a city.